Hello again. I've got some more new subscribers, not many, like a handful, and more comments on my Jimmy Savile video. I don't know what's going on. What's this obsession with Jimmy Savile? So my question is, should I be making videos about Jimmy Savile and then I'd get more subscribers? Not that I care that much how many subscribers I get, but you know, the whole point of making videos is as a means of communication, right? And if you don't have subscribers, you're not really communicating with anyone. Anyway, here I am. I've got my camcorder out. Isn't technology annoying? I tried my phone for a while, and the problem with that is it's got to connect to everything else. The thing about the camcorder is it's got a little SD card, do they call it? A little memory card that you can take out and stick in a computer. At least you used to be able to. My laptop is now, I don't know whether it's died or if it's just nearing the end of its useful life. I've got a MacBook Air, which I got a few years ago. I get them because you don't have all these dangling wires, and they just connect to everything automatically, and I know what they do, and they're efficient. But I find the latest MacBook Air, if I wanted to replace it, it doesn't have a slot for an SD card, so I wouldn't be able to edit videos on it anyway. At least not with this. Maybe my phone would connect to it, but I don't know, do I? This is the thing with technology. So I'm here in our front room with my camcorder. Our front room has been our bookselling office for years, and we finally, thank God, closed the bookselling business, except Chris still wants to keep selling books, so he thinks he's going to keep going all on his own. He's going to need my help because he's not good with technology. Anyway, we are for the first time redecorating the office. So I started to pull off the wallpaper to see how easy it was, and it's horrifyingly easy. Look at this corner. I think the damp-proof course is completely disintegrated. This here, these lumps under the wallpaper, which I thought were crumbling plaster, they're actually hygroscopic salts. It's like damp coming up and pushing salts out of the wall. Over on this side you can actually see a tide mark. This bit is damp. It's damp to the touch, and this isn't, so this is where the damp's coming up. This is probably not a good idea with power sockets as well. We have a bit of work to do on things screwed into walls. Chris has a wonderful way of making bookshelves involving old scraps of wood and multifarious screws, nails, whatever he can lay his hands on. And the problem with these, when they've been put into a damp wall like this, is that they tend to go rusty, and then guess what? You can't get them out again. So this might keep us busy for a while, trying to sort out this office. Can you hear the echo of my voice? It's quite nice to have the space. It feels a lot more spacious without all the furniture in it. That wallpaper came off really easily. I still will probably have to hire a steam wallpaper remover to get all that lot off. I don't understand why people do these stupid dado rails. We kind of used them. We stuck nails into them and kind of hung little notes on them that we needed. Over this side you can still see all the notices. Chris had so many, I don't think he even knows what's there anymore. It's ridiculous. This map is from his previous job before the bookselling business, when he used to go around and advise people. I just stopped to polish up my lens, which was a bit cloudy on one side. Grease marks. I think it looks better now. Anyway, dado rails. Why? I want to get them all off. We already had to get some off when we made the room an office, because not all his bookshelves were made with bits of wood screwed into the wall. He actually had some proper bookshelf rails on this side, and so we had to remove the dado rails so they could be fixed to the wall. There's a bit of dado rail here, but over here he made another bookshelf involving uprights that had to be screwed to the wall, so that had to come out. And you can see what happens when you remove the dado rail. It's just like all the plaster comes off, and that's going to be quite a job to fix it all up again. So yesterday I was 71. I enjoyed being 70. It was like license to be old. and be crotchety and do anything I wanted to do. But now I'm 71, it's like things are crumbling. It's the thin end of the wedge. I'm on an even steeper downhill slope than I was before. Words don't come to me. Just this last year, I've noticed I'm finding it really hard to remember names of people or even the names of objects. It comes to me like a minute later if I'm lucky. And then short-term memory is completely shot to pieces, you know. The thing about going out of a room and then forgetting what you went out for is practically constant now. I think my logical skills are still fairly good, but, you know, you begin to realise you are getting closer to when you really don't want to be bothered with all this complicated stuff that goes with modern living. I've never liked it, but I'm liking it even less now. These are the last tomatoes. I'm still hoping they will ripen up. They've gone a bit golden. They were green. And this is the television, which no longer works. Well, I say that, it does work. You turn it on and you get BBC One. And the remote control won't connect with it, so you can't change channels. We thought maybe it was the remote control. So we went and asked to borrow one of the neighbours so we could test that theory. It turns out nowadays remote controls are device specific and they're all set up electronically to connect with that device. We still wanted to test the remote control theory, so Chris went out and bought a brand new universal remote control. And I'm looking at the instructions and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this isn't going to work. So this is the simplest way of setting it up. First you turn on your device, then you hold down the button on the remote control that says magic. Magic, ha ha, snigger.
Home Secretary had made division.
So you hold down magic and that light is supposed to start flashing.
Have felt at liberty, let me just finish
It's
this.
not flashing, is it?
At liberty.
So clearly it's not the remote control, it's the television, it's superannuated. You know, back in the 60s they invented a thing called built-in obsolescence. Well, I thought they'd done away with it, but apparently everything is built-in obsolete now and only lasts a few years. And it's like no device will pair up with any other device, so you have to buy new devices every 5 minutes. And what happens to all these devices? Where do they end up? We're using up the Earth's resources at a fantastic rate, and nobody seems to be able to stop it. People are starting to wake up to the possible dangers of letting AI run rampant and control everything. Some people seem to think that AI is going to take on a life of its own and humans are going to be redundant and robots are going to rule supreme. Personally, I think that's a rather foolish way of looking at it, because robots or any kind of AI depends completely on humans. They've designed artificial intellects that will evolve on their own in terms of thinking and knowledge and ideas. So they just kind of communicate with each other and build up the experience of whatever gives them their specific kind of intelligence. But then all they are is an intelligence, and all they can do is send electronic signals to things. And I see a great flaw in this idea of devices ruling the world, because they do depend completely on humans. They depend on humans to supply the power. And power is a big issue nowadays. We're not going to continue to have the amount of power we have now to power all these devices. Okay, maybe an artificially intelligent device might be able to evolve so much that it could work out a way of sourcing its own power without human intervention. That seems a long way off, because they don't have physical bodies. They're just like brains that are connected with wires, and you can cut wires. So no, I don't think robots are going to take over the world, but I think their main threat to our existence is possibly that they would be run by people who don't really care about humanity. You know, it seems to me there are more or less two kinds of people. There's the sort of person that wants to be helpful. You know, your prime aim in life is to be useful. earn money, raise a family, help people. And there's a sort of person that's sociopathic or psychopathic that is just out for their own gratification. And those are the kinds of people, unfortunately, who will probably end up taking over AI systems, and the AI will then enable them to rapidly increase their power base and take over people by stealth or blatantly, so that eventually I can foresee that I can imagine that the whole of the civilized world, the whole of the developed world, is going to be run by despots who have control of the AI systems. But even that is not permanent, it's not going to take on a life of its own and continue indefinitely. It will be finite. And personally, I think a far greater threat to humanity than being dominated by some despot with lots of access to AI is the maniacs who are developing gain-of-function bacteria, viruses, in laboratories, for the fun of it, as far as I can tell. When COVID first came along, I listened to the government, because you get used to listening to the government, and generally they have some good advice, although they do seem to change their opinions every decade or so, and you follow their advice faithfully, and then they do an about turn, and you find that diesel engines aren't so good after all, and the fortune you've just spent on your diesel car is a waste of money, and you've got to go back to petrol. Oh no, you've got your petrol car, but you can't have that because you should have an electric vehicle. And they cost the earth, and you can bet your bottom dollar that once you've got an electric vehicle, there's going to be some huge problem with that, and the government's going to say, sorry, that's no good, do something else. But anyway, generally, I've trusted the government, and I thought they had our interests at heart. They give advice that they've got from the best of science, and their job is to look after us somehow. But since COVID, I've changed my mind on that one. I'm sorry. I never used to be political, and I'm really not political now. But I hate politics 10 times more than I ever used to, because it strikes me it serves the individual, and the individual always has an agenda, and the agenda doesn't involve the good of the population it's supposed to. So, yeah, with the virus, it seemed fairly obvious from the beginning that this didn't just come out of nowhere, but we were battered with this idea, oh no, it couldn't possibly have come from a laboratory, that's been debunked, can't have happened. Oh yeah, well, now more information's coming out, we realise that was what we suspected, that was the most likely cause. And the very scary thing is that it seems laboratories are continuing to explore gain of function. So gain of function, as I understand it, is you take a virus from a bat in a cave in a remote part of China where it wasn't doing anybody any harm, and you put it in a mouse that has been humanized, so it has cells that react in the way a human would, and you encourage this virus to evolve into something that might be a bit more nasty. You can encourage it even more along the way by putting little bits of other viruses' DNA in it to see what effect that will have. And the aim appears to be to end up with a virus that will be more infectious and more deadly than anything else. And people are still doing this, and governments are not stopping them. And I don't think governments could stop them even if they decided they wanted to. Because the world is a big place, and there are people all over the place with access to this knowledge and the equipment necessary to do it. So I reckon we're not going to be overrun by AI. We'll be dead in a swamp of our own dead devices from some virus that's been inadvertently or otherwise released by some lab. And there's not a lot we can do about that. When I was young, I used to think, oh, it's my duty to protest. I went on marches for banning the bomb, get the Americans out of Britain, we don't want to be the theatre for a nuclear war, etc., etc. That kind of subsided after a while, and it's still a possibility. I mean, we haven't stopped it. We never managed to stop it. And I look at the Just Stop Oil idiots gluing themselves to the pavements and throwing tomato soup at paintings and what have you. And I think, I'm not going to do that. Nobody likes you. You're not going to have any effect whatsoever, except to upset people. And in fact, there isn't any way of changing anything for the better by protesting, but it's all momentary and evanescent, and things just carry on, and you can't control everybody. This is the thing. Even Chairman Mao can't control everybody. No, who is it now? Xi Jinping, or that strange guy with the funny haircut in North Korea. He's got as close as anybody has to controlling everybody, but I don't know, is that going to happen in the whole world? I think we're incredibly lucky to be born into a part of the world that is a little bit off on the side and has not been involved in conflicts recently, and that we've been in an economy that's been allowed to develop more or less, so that we all more or less have access to comfortable housing and food. And I know people complain that not everybody has that, but I personally have it, and I am profoundly grateful to have it. I think I'm incredibly lucky. But I want to hang on to it, you know. I don't want to give it all away and then live in the gutter. That's human nature. And I don't have that long left on this earth anyway, and I'm thinking, what do I really want to do with the rest of my life? I do not want to campaign. I'm not a good campaigner. I don't argue well for things. Just lie low and kind of drink wine is my idea. It may not turn out like that anyway. And every time you drink a bottle of wine, you think, what am I going to do with the bottle? You know? So it goes. Bye.